Have you ever stood in the middle of a family gathering, believing that all your silent sacrifices would finally be recognized, only to have one blessing from the grandmother you respected most expose the deepest betrayal, dragging along a family secret you never suspected? Let me tell you, from that harmless BBQ party, I lost all trust, but I also found myself again. My name is Samantha Green, and I'm 30 years old. I teach third grade at Maple Elementary School in our small Vermont town, where everyone knows everyone else's business, or at least they think they do. The morning of that fateful barbecue started like any other Saturday in July. I woke up in my modest apartment, the one I'd been struggling to keep after taking out a mortgage last year. The financial stress had been eating at me for months, but I'd managed to keep my head above water through careful budgeting and picking up summer tutoring jobs. As I dressed for Grandma Edith's annual summer barbecue, I allowed myself a moment of hope. Grandma had been dropping hints for weeks about a special announcement she wanted to make, given how I'd spent the past 3 years caring for her after her hip surgery, driving her to countless doctor's appointments, managing her medications, and staying overnight during her recovery. I wondered if she might finally acknowledge my dedication with some financial help. Not that I expected it I'd helped because I loved her, but God knows I could use it. The Green family homestead sat on 5 acres of pristine Vermont countryside. Grandma Edith, 80 years old and sharp as a tack, had lived there since marrying my grandfather 60 years ago. After Grandpa passed, she became the unofficial matriarch and keeper of the family finances. Everyone knew Grandma Edith had money, old Vermont money from land sales and smart investments, but she kept a tight grip on every penny. I pulled into the gravel driveway, noting the cars already there. My parents' sensible Honda, various aunts' and uncles' vehicles, and a gleaming new Toyota Camry I didn't recognize. Must belong to one of the neighbors, I thought. The smell of charcoal and grilling meat hit me as I walked around the house to the backyard. About 30 people had already gathered, family members, close friends, and longtime neighbors. The scene was quintessentially American red-checkered tablecloths, coolers full of beer and soda, kids running through the sprinkler, and my Uncle Ted manning the grill while telling his famous fishing stories. "Sam." My mother waved me over to where she stood with my father near the dessert table. "You made it," we were starting to wonder. Traffic was horrible coming out of town. I lied. Truth was, I'd sat in my car for 20 minutes, working up the courage to face another family gathering where everyone would inevitably ask about my dating life, my finances, and when I planned to settle down properly. My younger brother Lucas appeared at my elbow, beer in hand, at 27. He still had that boyish charm that had always gotten him out of trouble. His dark hair was artfully tousled, his smile easy and confident. "Hey, sis. Looking good." "Thanks." I studied him, noting his new clothes and expensive sneakers. "You seem prosperous." He shrugged, that familiar evasive look crossing his face. "You know, things are looking up. Got some irons in the fire." Same old Lucas. Always had irons in the fire, but never an actual job that lasted more than a few months. While I'd worked multiple jobs through college to pay my tuition, Lucas had dropped out after 2 semesters, claiming traditional education wasn't for entrepreneurs like him. "Samantha." Grandma Edith's voice carried across the yard. She sat in her favorite lawn chair, holding court like a queen among her subjects. Despite her age, she looked regal in her powder blue sundress, her silver hair perfectly coiffed. "Come give your grandma a kiss." I made my way over, bending to kiss her papery cheek. She smelled like lavender and face powder, just as she had since I was a child. "You look tired, dear," she said, studying my face with those sharp blue eyes. "Working too hard." "Just the usual end-of-school year exhaustion," I said, settling into the chair beside her. "Summer school starts next week, but I needed the extra income." She patted my hand. "Well, that might change after today. I have something special planned for you." My heart lifted. Maybe my hopes weren't misplaced after all. The afternoon progressed with typical family barbecue activities. I helped my mother serve potato salad, listened to my Aunt Carol complain about her husband's snoring, and played cornhole with my cousins. But I kept glancing at Grandma Edith, waiting for her announcement. As the sun began to sink lower in the sky, painting everything golden, Grandma Edith stood up and clinked her fork against her glass. The chatter gradually died down as everyone turned to face her. "Family and friends," she began, her voice carrying that authority that had made her president of the Women's Club for 15 consecutive years. "I want to thank you all for coming to our little gathering. As you know, I believe in taking care of family, in making sure the younger generation has the support they need to thrive." I felt my pulse quicken. Several relatives smiled at me knowingly, and I realized they must have suspected this announcement was about me too. After all, everyone had seen how I'd cared for Grandma. "That's why," Grandma continued, her eyes finding mine across the yard, "I'm so pleased to announce that I've done something special for my granddaughter Samantha." The yard fell completely silent. Even the kids stopped playing to watch. Grandma Edith raised her glass higher, her voice ringing with pride. "Sam, your car loan's fully paid now. 12 grand is no joke." For a moment, the words didn't compute. I stood frozen, my plastic cup of lemonade halfway to my lips. "Car loan? What car loan?" I don't understand," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "Grandma, I don't have a car loan." The silence that followed was deafening. I saw confusion flicker across Grandma's face, then something else, uncertainty, fear. "Of course you do, dear," she said, but her voice had lost its confident ring. "The Toyota Camry," Lucas said. My eyes swung to my brother, who had gone very still. In his hand was a set of keys with a Toyota emblem. "Lucas," my voice came out as barely a whisper. He attempted his charming smile, but it came out as more of a grimace. "Well, you see, Grandma said she wanted to help with your car situation, and I thought, it made sense to put it in your name because your credit is better." "You used my name." The lemonade cup slipped from my numb fingers, splashing across the grass. "You took out a loan in my name." "Now, Sam, let's not make a scene," my mother interjected quickly, always the peacekeeper. "I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation." But I wasn't listening to her. I was staring at my brother, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. The new clothes, the confident swagger, the keys in his hand all paid for with credit stolen from me. "How?" I demanded, my voice rising. "How did you even do that? You'd need my social security number, my signature." Lucas's face flushed. "You left your info at Mom and Dad's house. From when you did your taxes there last year, I just borrowed it." "Borrowed it?" I laughed, but it was a harsh, ugly sound. "You committed identity theft." The yard erupted. Aunts gasped, uncles muttered, cousins whispered among themselves. But the person I watched was Grandma Edith. She had sunk back into her chair, one hand pressed to her chest, her face pale beneath her carefully applied makeup. "Lucas," she said faintly, "you told me Samantha knew. You said she agreed to this arrangement because she was too busy to go to the dealership herself." "I was going to tell her," Lucas said defensively. "I just needed the car for job interviews. How else am I supposed to get a decent job without reliable transportation? Sam has her teacher's salary. She doesn't understand what it's like to struggle." "I don't understand struggle." The words exploded from me. "I've been eating ramen noodles for 6 months to make my mortgage payments. I've been tutoring kids until 9 every night to make ends meet. I wore the same winter coat for 5 years because I couldn't afford a new one. And you think I don't understand struggle?" "Samantha, please," my father said, stepping forward. "Let's discuss this calmly. We're family." "Family." I whirled on him. "Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't commit fraud." "It's not fraud," Lucas protested. "I'm making the payments. Grandma gave me the money." "She gave you money she thought was helping me," I shouted. "And what happens when you stop making payments, Lucas? Like you stopped paying rent at your last 3 apartments. Like you stopped paying back the money you borrowed from Mom and Dad. It's my credit that gets destroyed. It's my name on that loan." I stumbled backward, needing space, needing air. The faces around me blurred, some sympathetic, some scandalized, some clearly wishing they were anywhere else. This was supposed to be my day. After years of sacrifice, of putting family first, of being the responsible one, this was supposed to be my moment of recognition. Instead, I'd been betrayed in the most public, humiliating way possible. I need to go, I mumbled, turning toward the house. Sam, wait! Grandma Edith called after me, but I didn't stop. I ran through the house, grabbing my purse from the kitchen counter, and burst out the front door. My hands shook so badly it took 3 tries to get my key in the ignition of my 10-year-old Honda Civic, the car I'd bought used and paid off through years of careful saving. The car Lucas had apparently decided wasn't good enough for him. The drive home was a blur. I ran 2 yellow lights and forgot to signal at least once, my mind racing faster than the speedometer. $12,000. He'd taken out a $12,000 loan in my name. What else had he done? How long had this been going on? I burst into my apartment and went straight to my laptop, my fingers trembling as I typed in the website for the free annual credit report. I'd checked it 6 months ago as part of my mortgage application process. Everything had been fine then. How much damage could Lucas have done in 6 months? The report loaded slowly, each second an agony. When it finally appeared, I felt the blood drain from my face. The car loan was just the beginning. There were 3 credit cards I'd never opened, all maxed out. A personal loan from an online lender for $5,000. Another car loan from a different dealership that had apparently been denied. Multiple credit inquiries that had dropped my score by nearly 100 points. Total debt in my name, $31,847. I ran to the bathroom and was violently sick, my whole body shaking. When there was nothing left to throw up, I slumped against the cool tile wall, trying to process the magnitude of what Lucas had done. My phone began buzzing. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Finally, I looked at the screen. 17 missed calls. Texts from my mother, my father, various aunts and uncles, even Grandma Edith, who barely knew how to text. Mom, sweetheart, please come back. We can sort this out as a family. Dad, Sam, you're overreacting. Lucas made a mistake, but he's trying to get his life together. Aunt Carol, that was quite the scene you made. Poor Edith is beside herself. But it was Grandma's text that made me cry. I'm so sorry, dear one. I had no idea. Please forgive a foolish old woman. I turned off my phone and sat in the gathering darkness of my apartment. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd built, could be destroyed by this. My credit was ruined. My ability to refinance my mortgage if rates dropped gone. My chance of getting a car loan when my Honda finally died, destroyed. Even my employment could be affected if the school board did credit checks for some reason. The next morning, I called in sick to summer school. Then I did something I'd never imagined doing to a family member. I called the police. The officer who came to take my report was sympathetic but matter of fact. Identity theft is serious, ma'am, even when it's family. Especially when it's family, actually. They have easier access to your information. What happens now? I asked, clutching the stack of printed credit reports and fraudulent account statements. You'll need to file a report. Dispute all the fraudulent charges with the credit bureaus, contact each creditor, put a freeze on your credit, and you'll need to decide if you want to press charges. If I press charges, he nodded gravely. Your brother could face jail time, identity theft, fraud, forgery if he signed your name. These are felonies. After he left, I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork, and tried to decide what to do. The responsible part of me, the part that had always done the right thing, said to press charges. Lucas needed to face consequences for once in his life. But the family part, the part that remembered teaching him to ride a bike and helping him with his homework, hesitated. My phone rang. I'd turned it back on to call the credit card companies. Grandma Edith's name appeared on the screen. Hello, Grandma. Oh, Sam, thank God. I've been up all night. Can you come over, just you and me? We need to talk. An hour later, I sat in Grandma's living room. the same room where I'd spent countless hours as a child, listening to her stories and learning to knit. She looked older than she had just yesterday, her face drawn and tired. "I failed you," she said without preamble. "I failed both of you, but especially you." "Grandma." "No. Let me finish. I've spent some time thinking, and I need to say this." She took a deep breath. "I always knew Lucas was troubled, unfocused. But I thought if I just gave him enough support, enough chances, he'd find his way. Meanwhile, you were so capable, so responsible, I took you for granted." "It's not your fault he stole from me," I said softly. "Isn't it?" She met my eyes, her own filled with tears. "I enabled him. Every time he failed, I cushioned the blow. Every time he made a mistake, I cleaned it up. I thought I was helping. But I was just teaching him that there were no real consequences." "What did he tell you exactly about the car?" She pulled out a handkerchief and dabbed at her eyes. "He came to me 3 months ago. Said you were struggling financially, but too proud to ask for help. He showed me paperwork for a car loan with your name on it. Said you'd asked him to handle the details because you were so busy with work. He was so convincing. Sam, he had an answer for every question I asked." "Did you give him cash?" "No, I wrote a check directly to the dealership. I should have called you. But he said you'd be embarrassed if you knew I was helping. It played right into my image of you proud, independent, never wanting to be a burden." I laughed bitterly. While I was eating cereal for dinner to save money, "I know, I'm a fool." She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "Which is why I'm trying to make it right, or at least start to." I opened the envelope and gasped. Inside was a cashier's check for $50,000. "Grandma, I can't." "Yes, you can, and you will," she said firmly, some of her old authority returning. "This is part of your inheritance. I was planning to leave it to you in my will, but you need it now. Use it to pay off those fraudulent debts. Fix your credit, hire a lawyer if necessary. And there's something else." She handed me another document. I scanned it quickly, my eyes widening. It was the deed to the family's lake cabin. "The cabin has been in the family for 60 years, she said. "It's worth at least $200,000 in today's market. It's yours now. You can sell it, rent it out for income, or keep it as a retreat, whatever you need." "Grandma, this is too much. What about Lucas? What about Mom and Dad?" Her expression hardened. "Your parents will get their share when I'm gone. As for Lucas, he's gotten more than enough from this family. It's time he learned to stand on his own feet. He'll be furious. Let him be. I'm changing my will tomorrow. He'll get a token amount. Enough that he can't contest it, but nothing more. I won't reward theft and deception." I stared at the check and the deed, feeling overwhelmed. What if he goes to jail? Then he goes to jail, she said simply. "Sam, I'm 80 years old. I've learned a lot about life. And one thing I know for certain, protecting someone from the consequences of their actions isn't love. It's enabling. I enabled Lucas for years. And look where it got us. Don't make my mistake." That evening, back in my apartment, I spread all the documents across my dining room table. The credit reports, the police report, the check from Grandma, the deed to the cabin. My phone had been ringing all day. Lucas, my parents, other relatives. I'd ignored them all. Finally, around 8 o'clock, there was a knock at my door. I peered through the peephole to see my parents standing in the hallway, looking haggard. "We know you're in there, Sam," my mother called. "Please, we just want to talk." I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "There's nothing to talk about." "You called the police," my father said accusingly. "On your own brother." "My brother committed multiple felonies against me," I replied evenly. "What would you have done if it was a stranger?" "But it wasn't a stranger," my mother said, tears streaming down her face. "It's Lucas. He's family." "Family doesn't steal $30,000 from each other." I snapped. "Family doesn't destroy each other's financial future." "He made a mistake," my father insisted. "He's willing to pay you back." I laughed harshly. "With what, he doesn't have a job. He's never held a job for more than 3 months. How's he going to pay back $30,000? We'll help him, my mother said. We'll take out a loan. You'll take out a loan. I stared at them incredulously. You're on a fixed income. You're 3 years from retirement, and you want to go into debt to protect Lucas from consequences again? What else are we supposed to do? My father demanded. Let him go to prison. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen, I said quietly. Maybe if he'd faced real consequences years ago, we wouldn't be here now. My mother gasped. You don't mean that. I do. I'm tired of being the responsible one while Lucas gets away with everything. I'm tired of sacrificing while he takes. I'm done enabling him. And you should be too. If you press charges, my father said coldly, you're no longer welcome in our home. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I stood my ground. If that's your choice, I'll respect it. But I'm not dropping the charges. They left without another word, my mother sobbing, my father's face set in stone. I closed the door and leaned against it, feeling utterly alone. The next few weeks were a blur of legal procedures, credit disputes, and family drama. I hired a lawyer with part of Grandma's money, a sharp young woman named Jennifer who specialized in identity theft cases. The evidence is overwhelming, she told me during our second meeting. Multiple forged signatures, falsified documents, clear pattern of deception. If this goes to trial, he'll almost certainly be convicted. What kind of sentence are we talking about? Given the amount and the number of charges, 2 to 5 years, possibly more if the judge wants to make an example. I felt sick at the thought, but I remembered Grandma's words. Protecting someone from consequences isn't love. Lucas tried to contact me repeatedly. Calls, texts, emails, even showing up at my school until I had security remove him. His messages ranged from apologetic to angry to desperate. Please, Sam, I'll pay you back every penny. You're destroying our family over money. I'm your brother. Doesn't that mean anything? I might kill myself if I go to prison. Is that what you want? That last one almost broke me. I showed it to Jennifer, terrified. Classic manipulation, she said. If you're genuinely concerned, you can request a wellness check, but don't let him use emotional blackmail to escape accountability. The family chose sides quickly. My parents, 2 aunts, and several cousins aligned with Lucas, painting me as cold and vindictive. Grandma Edith, Uncle Ted, and a handful of others supported me, understanding that Lucas had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The preliminary hearing was set for a Tuesday in September. I dressed carefully that morning, choosing a conservative navy suit that made me look older, more serious. My hands shook as I applied makeup, trying to cover the dark circles that had become permanent fixtures under my eyes. Grandma Edith insisted on coming with me. You shouldn't face this alone, she said, gripping my hand as we walked into the courthouse. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, more mundane. Lucas sat at the defendant's table with his public defender, wearing an ill-fitting suit that I suspected he'd borrowed. He looked pale, thinner than I'd ever seen him. When he turned and saw me, his expression cycled through hope, anger, and finally, resignation. My parents sat behind him, my mother clutching my father's arm. They didn't look at me. The hearing itself was procedural. The judge reviewing the charges, the evidence, setting dates for future proceedings. But when the prosecutor read out the full list of Lucas's crimes, identity theft, fraud, forgery, grand larceny, the reality of it hit the room like a weight. I testified briefly, confirming my identity, stating that I hadn't authorized any of the accounts or loans. My voice remained steady, though my heart was racing. When I stepped down, I caught Lucas's eye. He mouthed something that might have been, "I'm sorry," or might have been, "I hate you." I couldn't tell. Bail was set at $25,000. I watched my parents' faces crumble as they realized they couldn't afford it. Lucas would remain in custody until trial or until they could somehow raise the money. Outside the courthouse, my mother confronted me. "Are you happy now?" she snarled, mascara streaming down her cheeks. "Your brother is in jail like a common criminal." He is a criminal. Mom, I said quietly. He stole $30,000. He committed fraud. She slapped me. Hard. The crack echoed off the courthouse steps, drawing stares from passers-by. You're not my daughter, she hissed. No daughter of mine would do this to family. Grandma Edith stepped between us, her voice steel. That's enough, Patricia. Sam is the victim here, not Lucas. If you can't see that, then you're as blind as I was. My mother turned on her. This is your fault too. You gave him that money. You enabled this. Yes, Grandma said simply. I did. And I'm trying to make amends for it. What's your excuse? We left them there, my parents clutching each other, looking older and more broken than I'd ever seen them. The guilt was crushing. But underneath it was something else: relief. The secret was out. The enabling had stopped. For better or worse, Lucas would finally face consequences. The next months were a strange kind of purgatory. I threw myself into work, grateful for the distraction of teaching. My third graders didn't care about family drama or credit scores. They just wanted to learn multiplication tables and hear stories about talking animals. I used Grandma's money wisely. After paying off all the fraudulent debts and hiring Jennifer, I still had enough left to create an emergency fund, something I'd never been able to do before. The lake cabin I decided to keep, at least for now. It became my retreat, a place to escape the gossip and judgment that seemed to follow me everywhere in town. Word of the family scandal had spread, as it always does in small communities. Some people supported me, understanding the impossible position Lucas had put me in. Others whispered behind their hands about the cold-hearted sister who'd sent her own brother to jail over money. You did the right thing, my colleague Martha told me one day over lunch. My sister stole my identity 15 years ago. I didn't press charges because family, and she did it again 5 years later. Cost me my house that time. Stories like Martha's helped, but they didn't ease the pain of losing half my family. My parents hadn't spoken to me since the courthouse steps. I'd missed Thanksgiving, been disinvited from Christmas. Even cousins I'd been close to avoided me at the grocery store. But there were surprises too. Uncle Ted started joining me for coffee every Saturday morning. Someone needs to make sure you're eating, he said gruffly. But I could see the care in his eyes. My mother's sister, Carol, who'd initially criticized me, called to apologize after learning the full extent of Lucas's theft. I had no idea it was that bad, she said. We all thought it was just the car loan. $30,000. My God, Sam. The trial was set for March. Jennifer felt confident about a plea deal. Lucas's lawyer knew the evidence was overwhelming. But Lucas, in typical fashion, was holding out, convinced he could charm a jury into leniency. I tried not to think about it, focusing instead on rebuilding my life. My credit score was slowly recovering. I'd started seeing a therapist to deal with the trauma and guilt. I even went on a few dates, though explaining why I was estranged from half my family proved to be a conversation killer. Then, in February, everything changed again. I was at the lake cabin for the weekend, grading papers by the fire, when my phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Samantha Green. The voice was professional, clinical. Yes. This is Dr. Harrison at Valley Medical Center. You're listed as Lucas Green's emergency contact. He's been admitted following a suicide attempt. The world tilted. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. Will he be okay? He's stable now. Overdose of prescription medication. He's asking for you. I drove the 2 hours to the hospital in a daze, my mind racing. Was this my fault? Had I pushed him too far? Should I have just let it go? Absorbed the debt? Protected him one more time? Lucas looked small in the hospital bed, his wrists restrained, an IV dripping steadily into his arm. When he saw me, tears immediately filled his eyes. Sam, he whispered, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I sat in the visitor's chair, not trusting myself to speak. I've ruined everything, he continued, his voice broken. Mom and Dad spent their retirement savings on my bail. I can't get a job because of the charges. Everyone knows what I did. I couldn't see any other way out. There's always another way, I said quietly. This isn't it. I know you hate me. I don't hate you, Lucas. And I realized it was true. I was angry, hurt, betrayed, but I didn't hate him. I hate what you did. I hate that you put me in this position. I hate that our family is destroyed. But I don't hate you. He sobbed then, ugly, wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. I wanted to comfort him, but I didn't move. That was the old pattern Lucas screwed up. Everyone rushed to make him feel better. Not anymore. I need help. He finally gasped. Real help. Not money, not someone to fix my problems, therapy or something. I don't know how to be a functional person. Sam, I never learned. Then learn now, I said. It's not too late. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, I asked the question that had haunted me for months. Why did you do it, really? He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because I could. Because you had good credit and I didn't. Because I wanted things I couldn't afford. Because I've always been jealous of you. Jealous of me? You had your shit together. Always have. Good grades, good job. People respect you. I'm just the fuck-up little brother. And instead of trying to be better, I tried to take what you had. God, I'm such an asshole. Yes, I agreed. You are. He laughed wetly. Thanks for not sugarcoating it. I'm done sugarcoating things for you. Lucas, we all are. Or we should be. A nurse came in to check his vitals, giving us a moment of reprieve. When she left, Lucas spoke again. I want to plead guilty. I looked at him sharply. What? I did it. All of it. I'll plead guilty. Take whatever sentence they give me. Maybe. Maybe prison will give me time to figure out who I'm supposed to be. Who I want to be. Lucas, I'm not trying to manipulate you, he said quickly. I'm not asking you to drop the charges or forgive me or anything. I wanted you to know I'm going to take responsibility, finally. I left the hospital feeling strangely lighter. Lucas was alive. He was getting help. He was taking responsibility. It wasn't a magic fix. Our family was still shattered, the trust still broken, the consequences still real. But it was a start. 2 weeks later, Jennifer called. Lucas's attorney contacted me. He wants to plead guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. 18 months in minimum security, 3 years probation, mandatory counseling, and full restitution. Restitution? He has to pay back every penny he stole, with interest. It'll probably take him decades, but it's part of the deal. What do you think? It's a good deal. He'll serve time, have a felony record, but also get the help he needs, and you'll eventually be made whole financially. Okay, I said. Tell them okay. The final hearing was anticlimactic. Lucas stood before the judge, thin but clear-eyed, and admitted to everything. He apologized to me, to the court, to our family. When the judge sentenced him to 18 months, he simply nodded. My parents were there, of course. My mother wept silently. My father stared straight ahead. They still didn't acknowledge me. But after the hearing, as the bailiff prepared to lead Lucas away, my mother approached me. I still think you should have handled this differently, she said stiffly. But Lucas, he told us he needed this, that you were right to stop enabling him. It wasn't an apology, but it was progress. I hope he gets the help he needs, I said simply. She nodded and walked away. My father lingered for a moment, meeting my eyes for the first time in months. Take care of yourself, Sam, he said quietly, then followed my mother. That was 6 months ago. Lucas is still serving his sentence, but he writes me letters, real letters, not texts or emails. He tells me about the job training program he's in, the therapy sessions, the books he's reading. He's earned his GED and is talking about community college when he gets out. I write back sometimes, not always, but enough to let him know I haven't given up on him entirely. I tell him about my students, about the lake cabin, about the therapy that's helping me set better boundaries. I don't visit, I'm not ready for that, but the letters feel like enough for now. My relationship with my parents is slowly thawing. We had dinner together last month. Awkward, but civil. They're seeing a counselor too, trying to understand their role in enabling Lucas. It's painful for them, admitting their failures, but necessary. Grandma Edith and I have grown closer than ever. She spends weekends at the lake cabin with me, teaching me her recipes and telling me stories about the family I never knew. At 91, she's still sharp, still formidable, still learning. I spent so many years thinking love meant making things easy for the people we care about, she told me one evening as we watched the sunset over the lake. But real love means helping them become their best selves, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. My credit score has recovered. I refinanced my mortgage at a better rate. I even bought a new car with my own money, in my own name, nobody else involved. It's nothing fancy, just a reliable Honda CR-V. But it's mine. The school board promoted me to department head, with a salary increase that finally lets me breathe financially. I'm dating someone new, a fellow teacher named Marcus, who understands complicated families and the importance of boundaries. But the biggest change is in me. I learned to say no. I learned that helping family doesn't mean enabling them. I learned that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's codependency dressed up in good intentions. Sometimes I drive past the house where that barbecue happened, where Grandma announced she'd paid off a loan I didn't know I had. The memory still stings. But differently now. It's not just pain anymore. It's also the moment everything hidden came to light. The moment the enabling stopped. The moment I started reclaiming my life. Lucas gets out in 4 months. He'll have a felony record, decades of restitution payments, and a long road to rebuilding his life. But he'll also have tools he never had before: therapy, job skills, and the knowledge that his family won't cushion every fall. I don't know if we'll ever be close again. Trust, once shattered, is hard to rebuild. But I hope we can find some kind of relationship that's healthier than what we had. One built on honesty and accountability rather than enabling and resentment. The extended family has mostly come around. The story of what Lucas did has become a cautionary tale told at gatherings, a reminder of what happens when love becomes enabling, when help becomes harm. Some still think I was too harsh, but even they admit that Lucas needed to face consequences. And me, I'm learning to forgive not just Lucas, but myself. Forgive myself for not seeing the theft sooner, for years of enabling him in my own small ways, for breaking up the family by demanding accountability, for choosing my own well-being over keeping the peace. Because that's what it came down to, in the end. A choice between my future and family harmony, between justice and enabling, between the life I'd built through years of hard work and the illusion of family unity at any cost. I chose myself. And despite the pain, the lost relationships, the months of anguish, I'd make the same choice again. The last letter I got from Lucas included a poem he'd written in his therapy group. It was rough, unpolished, but the last line stuck with me. She saved me by refusing to save me, loved me by letting me fall, gave me the gift of consequences, the hardest gift of all. Maybe that's what love really is: not protecting people from their choices, but loving them enough to let them face the results. Loving them enough to stop enabling. Loving them enough to say no. I keep that poem on my refrigerator now, next to a photo from last summer's barbecue at Grandma's house. It's smaller than the old gathering, some faces missing, relationships still mending. But the people there chose accountability over enabling, truth over comfortable lies. We're not perfect. We're still learning, still growing, still figuring out how to love each other without losing ourselves. But we're trying, and that's more than we were doing before. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is refusing to be an accomplice to someone's self-destruction. Sometimes, saving someone means letting them face the consequences they've earned. And sometimes, the only way to preserve your own life is to be willing to let others blame you for protecting it. That barbecue 3 years ago shattered my family's illusions and my sense of security. But from those shattered pieces, we're building something better, not perfect, but honest. Not enabling, but truly supportive, not peaceful, but real. And that's worth more than all the comfortable lies in the world. As I sit here at the lake cabin, watching the sun set over the water, I think about that moment when Grandma announced she'd paid off my car loan. The shock, the betrayal, the public humiliation. It was the worst moment of my life, but it was also the beginning of something better for all of us. Lucas will be out soon. He'll struggle. He'll face challenges. I can't imagine finding work with a felony record, rebuilding relationships, paying restitution for decades to come. But he'll face them as himself, not as the enabled baby brother who never had to grow up. My parents are learning too, slowly accepting their role in creating the dynamic that nearly destroyed us all. They're in their 70s now, facing their own mortality and the legacy they'll leave behind. I hope they find peace with their choices, even the painful ones. And me, I'm 33 now, still teaching, still single, still figuring out who I am when I'm not defined by family dysfunction. The therapy helps. The boundaries help more. But mostly, what helps is knowing that I chose truth over comfort, accountability over enabling, my own well-being over family approval. It cost me everything, and it gave me everything that matters. The sun has set now, the lake reflecting the last purple rays of twilight. Somewhere, Lucas is preparing for his release, for a life of accountability and consequence. Somewhere, my parents are learning to love without enabling. Somewhere, other families are struggling with the same choices we faced. I hope they choose truth. I hope they choose accountability. I hope they learn, as we did, that love without boundaries isn't love at all. Because in the end, that's what this story's about. Not revenge, though it might seem that way. Not punishment, though that played a role. It's about the revolutionary act of refusing to enable someone's self-destruction, even when every voice around you says that's what family does. It's about learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. Even when it breaks your heart, even when it breaks your family, even when everyone says you're wrong. Because enabling isn't love, accountability is. And that $12,000 car loan that started it all, Lucas is paying it back, slowly but steadily, from his prison job earnings. $23 a month. At this rate, it'll take him 43 years to pay it off. But he's paying it, because that's what accountability looks like. That's what real change requires. And that's what love, true love, tough love, transformative love demands. Every month, when I see that $23 deposit in my account, I'm reminded of how far we've all come. From enabling to accountability. From comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. From a family that looked perfect on the outside to one that's genuinely trying to heal. It's not a happy ending. Exactly. Lucas still has a criminal record. I still have trust issues. Our family gatherings are still smaller, quieter, marked by the absence of those who couldn't accept the new reality. But it's a real ending. An honest ending. And that's worth more than all the false harmony in the world. So to anyone facing a similar choice between enabling and accountability, between family harmony and personal well-being, between comfortable lies and uncomfortable truths, know this: choosing truth will cost you. It will hurt in ways you can't imagine. You will lose people you love. You will question yourself every single day. But you will also find strength you didn't know you had. You will build relationships based on honesty rather than obligation. You will sleep better knowing you're not complicit in someone's self-destruction. And eventually, painfully, slowly, you might even build something better from the ashes of what was. That's my story. That's how a grandmother's proud announcement at a backyard barbecue exposed a web of lies that nearly destroyed us all, and how refusing to enable those lies saved us in the end. Not all of us, not completely, not without scars, but saved nonetheless. And that has to be enough. Because it's all we have. And it's more than we had when we were living in comfortable denial, enabling our way to destruction. One family barbecue at a time. The truth really will set you free. But first, it will destroy everything you thought you knew. And from that destruction, if you're brave enough, you can build something real. even if it takes 43 years of $23 payments to get there.